welcome. I'm excited to have author Mary Connealy with us today. Thank you, Mary.
Oh, thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me
thanks
on.
for giving me your time. And, I got to hear kind of what types of books you write last night. We got to meet, and so I would like you to tell the viewers what kind of books you write.
I write romantic comedy with cowboys. It's historical, fiction, westerns. So, does that cover it?
Yes. I have to admit, I've never ventured into that genre.
I might be the only one writing it. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So that would not be that big of a venture. You'd have to just specifically
it
hunt
sounds
for me.
really good to me.
I think of them as an adventure. I try to take everybody along for the ride.
Yeah, that's great. So does your humor come naturally to you, or do you kind of have to draw inspiration from comedians, or how do you come up with that?
You know, I seem to just be remarkably sarcastic in my normal life. I don't know where that came from. I have two perfectly lovely parents that don't deserve that. But I am the mother of 4 daughters, and my husband's from a family of 7 sons. And he spends a lot of time just saying, why are they doing that? Why won't they stop crying? Why are they laughing and giggling and everything? And there's a lot of comedy in that. So
sure.
I draw a lot from him because he's a Nebraska cattleman, and I think I know the mindset of that kind of a character for the hero. So
Sure.
Anyway.
So do you draw inspiration for your cowboys from any like actors or people in your life? Where does that come from?
I wrote for 10 years before I got my first book published, and I had 20 finished books on my computer on that day when I finally got a contract. And I'd written a lot of stuff. I'd written a lot, mostly romance, but contemporary and historical and short and sweet and long sagas, and that's the one that just finally hit. And I wonder if I bring some authenticity to it, just because that's my life. You know, I've always lived in the country. I've always lived around animals and men who have that attitude, that kind of cowboy attitude. So maybe that just hit because it, could make it sound real, make it be honest.
Sure. So how many books do you have out now?
The book that is coming in October is my 75th book.
Whoa, okay.
Yeah. And I stop and count every once in a while because sometimes I forget some of them, but I think that's right.
Yeah. So your newest book that's coming out, can you tell us about that?
It's the 3rd book in my current series, which is based in Wyoming. Did you know Wyoming was the first state to give women the right to vote?
No.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Little Wyoming. Why did they do that? I don't know. It's interesting story, fun to research, and they came in. The governor was a guy who was nominated by Abraham Lincoln to the territorial governor, and I just think he believed that freed slaves should have the right to vote, and women should have the right to vote, and everybody should have the right to vote. And I mean, that was a law that was passed by men all the way down the line, and so I started researching that, and it's just really fun to research because it's not just voting. It's women were serving on juries, women got appointed to offices, women could run for elective offices. There were things to do with property rights. You know, a woman could marry a man and her property would immediately become his, but suffrage fixed some of that. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I had so much fun researching it, and then of course what I did was I have all my heroines do non-traditional roles because Wyoming was better at allowing that, including the book I read that sort of inspired the whole thing was about the first woman justice of the peace, and she was in Wyoming. And so I have one of my heroines be the second woman. It's all fictionalized. And so the book that's coming now is the 3rd book in what we call the Wyoming Sunrise series, and it's called Marshaling Her Heart, and she's a lady rancher. And there's trouble, and the U.S. Marshals get involved and use her ranch as kind of a base of operations to try to catch some bad guys.
Okay,
so
interesting. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody getting started in the author world? waiting, what did you say, 10 years?
10 years. It's a different world now. You had to find a publisher back then. Now with IndiePub, and Amazon KDP, you can just get published. But this is the advice I always give. I always say there's 2 skills to being an author. One is just the mindset to sit by yourself for hours on end and make stuff up and like it and want that for your life. A lot of people can't do it, and that's good. They shouldn't do it. It's a weird way to behave, really, So if you can't do that, then I don't think you can be an author. Once in a while I talk to someone who doesn't quite fit, but as a rule. And then the second skill is the craft, and you can spend the rest of your life learning that. But if you want to write, the rest you can learn. So, most of the people who get sick of being authors and say they're going to quit, I always say, well, just quit then. I bet you can't. You'll just be right back at it before you know it. So,
sure.
Anyway.
So how do you stay creative?
I love to read, for one thing. I find a lot of interesting characters in other books that I read, and to the point that I almost don't read in my own genre because I'm afraid I will start to steal too much of it. Mm-hmm. But if I read a Jack Reacher book and find some weird character in there and think, now if I made him a cowboy and put him, out west, no one would ever notice that. I would change it too much. So a lot of it is that I love research. I just have more fun going around and reading old, first-person accounts of things. You can find these old diaries online. It's all free, really. Prison guards from a Civil War prison, and he'll just have written letters home, and they'll have that all saved. And some of that's so interesting, and part of the reason it's interesting is because you start to realize there's a basic truth, but there's also what that guy saw and how he saw it. And sometimes he doesn't necessarily get the whole story and understand it fully, and yet that's true for him, and you can have a character understand things in an interesting and perhaps not strictly correct way, and yet it's how it hit him, and you can kind of do that. So, and I know the one thing I fail at, and I try, the second New Year's resolution effort every year, I try to get out from behind the computer and do things, because I'm so bad about that. I'm just so content at home. I am just absolutely fine sitting by myself making stuff up. It's not even good. But so I try to go museums. I try to get my hands on things. Some museums will let you touch stuff.
Sure.
I had a guy at Shields one time get down a replica Winchester 73 and let me hold it. And so I know I need to do that. I don't do it as much as I should, but I try.
Sure. Now, Mary, where are you from?
I'm from Nebraska.
Nebraska. And you do get out because you have a tie to Battle Lake.
Oh, yes.
So our viewers are familiar with Battle Lake.
Okay.
So
when I leave here, we're doing the Readers Retreat on Saturday, and when I leave, I am driving straight to Battle Lake to meet my family, I left them to pack and get ready, which is not very nice of me, but I did it anyway. But I'm going to go over there and intersect with them at Battle Lake. We have been going to Battle Lake, and I say my husband's been going since he was 6 years old. His parents were driving, they were going to go fishing in Canada. They got 7 sons, car full of noisy, rowdy boys. And they saw the first lake in Minnesota, and they just wanted to stop. So they made it to the very next one, the second farthest south lake to us, to Nebraska, and that's where they went. And they've been going there since Ivan was 6, and then when we got married, we started going and then taking the kids one at a time. All his brothers were going at one time, but they've kind of, faded away, and but now it's just us, and our children come with us who can every year. We got 2 of them coming this year and 2 grandchildren.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Well, Mary, how can people connect with you online?
Well, I'm MaryConnealy.com, and the trick there is spelling it. I'm on Facebook. I've been trying to learn to use Instagram. Somebody really talked me through it a while back, and then she left, and now I can't
I'm not
remember.
even trying.
Somebody said, I think you have to have a picture, and that was like a big light bulb moment. Oh, that's why nothing I write shows up. I need a picture. So I don't know. I'm trying to get better at stuff like that. But I'm on Facebook, and I'm on a blog called Petticoats and Pistols, which is Western romance, all genres of it, contemporary and historical and everything. So yeah, I'm not hard to find.
All right.
I'm not hiding.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So make sure and check out Mary Connealy.